This is a Global Player original podcast.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
Is he crazy or is that just the way he acts? You know, some whack job can say this stuff and get away with it?
It's a total disgrace. Donald Trump has been ordered to pay E. Jean Carroll $83.3 million. He went orange in the face at the very thought. Well, what does he care?
I make $400 million a year, so what difference does it make?
He makes $400 million a year, so what difference does it make? $83.3 million. That's nothing. I bet he doesn't pay a single solitary cent of it. I bet he goes out and asks his fans to stump up the money for him. I betcha that he does exactly that. I bet Donald Trump doesn't pay a single solitary cent. I bet he gets his cult fans to do it.
I love the poorly educated.
Yeah, they keep giving and giving, don't they, Donnie? A Manhattan jury awarded the columnist a huge sum after deliberating for less than 3 hours following a 2-week trial where the former president of the United States of America testified for just 3 minutes. Wow, they managed to shut him up for all of that time. They just spoke for 3 minutes. The case centered on comments Trump made about Carroll after she accused him of raping her in a Bergdorf Goodman's dressing room in the 1990s. Trump, 77, says, she's totally not my type. He actually said that. So he's been ordered to hand over $7.3 million for emotional harm and $11 million for reputational damages and $65 million for punitive damages. Wow, that is a lot of punitive. Your husband's going to be totally broke, Melania.
I don't care.
She's actually not that bothered. He's got the houses on the prenup. Well, it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. Stu says, if Trump actually knows who he is talking about, does he get extra points? Do you get extra points if you know who you are talking about? Absolutely.
If you get it in order, you get extra points.
If you get it in order, you get extra points. Not if you know what you're talking about, you get it in... rearrange those words to make a sentence of your choice. It'd be like a game. Like a jigsaw puzzle, this show now. Caroline says, or Carol says, Carol with an E. Former Cabinet Minister Simon Clarke is the latest Tory to call publicly for Sunak to resign. Yet another leadership race beckons for the fifth Tory MP since Brexit. The fifth Tory MP since Brexit, Bodger.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
I bet there's certain individuals who want him back. They want the magic back. You know, they want the... back. Took a while to find it. Oh, by the way, Britain is set to be battered by a 572-mile wall of snow. Snow?
Oh, no.
A 572-mile wall of snow. That sounds like something out of, the thing with the crown. Not the crown, but the chair of knives that was the crown. What was that show? You know, with the dragons? It went on forever. It was practically mono. It was like a mono. God, I can't think of anything. It was there was no colour in it at all. It was all black and white. Mono something. A large band of wintry weather could sweep in on February the 10th. Note it down in your diary. This will bring Snowmageddon to an area stretching from Manchester to Lerwick, wherever they are. It'll be the most severe weather since last week's severe weather brought the transport network in this country to its knees and forced the schools to close and roads were shut and, the entire country fell over because of a light chill. Perfectly normal in a well-run country. This weekend we'll see mostly fine weather in the southeast. Mostly. Some wet and windy weather in the northwest. Well, yeah, I mean, that goes without saying. Wet and windy weather in the northwest. Of course. I mean, I can check on that while you wait. Well, it's not raining in Glasgow at the moment. Can you believe that?
No.
Neither will it be raining tomorrow. Blimey, 2 days in a row. But it will be raining on Sunday and raining on Monday and raining on Tuesday and raining on Wednesday and raining on Thursday and raining on Friday and raining next Saturday the 3rd. Blimey, it's almost February already. Going quick, isn't it? It'll be Jesus' birthday before you know it. So it'll be raining on the 3rd of February in Glasgow, and on the Sunday, and it'll be raining on the Monday, and raining on the Tuesday, and raining on the Wednesday, and raining on the Thursday, basically every day for the rest of your lives. Never mind, eh? It's just weather. This weekend, we'll see mostly fine weather in the southeast, wet and windy weather in the northwest. Would you like to hear the long-range forecast for the next 2 weeks?
No.
Now, I normally do this for the next 4 weeks, but the 2 weeks after the following 2 weeks is not looking that great. So we're going to restrict ourselves to the next 2 weeks, if that's okay with you. So, long-range forecast for the next 2 weeks. This is till the end of the first week of February, if you can believe that. Cloudy and rainy at first, followed by more cloud and more rain. The rain will be heaviest in the northwest. Of course it will. In the south and the east, settled periods are likely, and apart from when it's freezing cold, temperatures are expected to be milder than average. Apart from when it's freezing cold, temperatures are expected to be milder than average. We'll take it. Yeah, so, okay. Shall we talk about this Simon Clarke fella? Because Carol, with an E, has, brought his name up. You know Simon Clarke, don't you?
No.
No, not remotely. He has not achieved a ping on our radar. Tory whips are investigating claims that a plot to bring down titchy suit size has links to Nigel Farage's Reform Party. Tory whips, yeah, I bet they love a bit of it. They thought that this plot to bring down titchy suit size has the smell of UKIP about it. It's got a bit of a UKIP-y aroma. What would you say that aroma was? I'd say boiled vegetables. Would it be rude to say halitosis?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it would be rude. Fortunately, I didn't say it. Boiled vegetables and halitosis, and a bit of old sock thrown in. I'm just dealing in the facts, ma'am. Senior Conservative sources said, "Poor." They said the party had launched a probe into whether the Gaping Toad's business come political party, Reform, is playing a role in a mysterious group agitating against a titchy suit size. It's not a mysterious group. It's called Great Britain. Great Britain is agitating against titchy suit size. I don't know what you're thinking. You're thinking, why would anybody want to agitate against the dear leader? What with his honest, down-to-earth way with ordinary human beings, and how his trouser cuffs flap in the breeze like a pair of windsocks, and those skinny little ties and those sad puppy dog eyes. Oh, isn't he an absolute dream?
No.
Attention is focused on a recent poll which suggested that the Conservatives are on course for a landslide defeat. Unless they replace titchy suit size with a different leader who is willing to take a tougher line on immigration and tax cuts. Because, if at first your policies don't succeed in making you more popular, simply keep doing the same thing but louder. That's bound to work. The poll was commissioned by the Conservative Britain Alliance, which is a previously unheard-of group of anonymous donors. There seems to be a lot of previously unheard-of Tory groups of anonymous donors. I mean, practically every think tank you can name is a previously unheard-of group of Tory donors. There's the one that's against Europe, and the one that's against science. There's the one that's against recognising climate change, and there's the one against giving money to people who aren't millionaires. Actually, there's a lot of those ones. A lot of previously unheard-of Tory groups of anonymous donors who are against giving money to people who aren't millionaires. Shall we assume that they're keeping their funding a secret because it might undermine the arguments that they're making? I mean, if you're all for keeping on using gas and oil at any cost, and your funding is from oil and gas companies, then it would rather ruin the message if people found out. The mysteriously funded poll's findings have been cited by Tory MPs who staged a revolt against Mr Sunak in a bid to toughen up the Rwanda policy. They really are totally out of ideas, aren't they? I mean, at this point, I could be appalled, but I've decided to be amused. Still going on about the blooming Rwanda policy as though it's going to fix anything other than giving them something to talk about and one day's respite from bad headlines. I mean, come on. They've been cited by Tory MPs who staged a revolt against Sunak in a bid to toughen up the Rwanda policy. We want them we want all those people to come over here, taken by the back of the head and drowned like puppies. That's my opening offer. So no less a person than Simon Clarke called for the Prime Minister to quit this week. You know Simon Clarke, don't you?
No.
You know, the Secretary to the Treasury. He did that job for about 6 months. He was Minister of State for Regional Growth. He did that job for 6 months. He was Chief Secretary to the Treasury for, a whole 11 months. And he was Secretary of State for Levelling Up for about 6 weeks. So, his experience is invaluable. It's uncountable. How's that levelling up going, by the way?
Fabulous.
I mean, what a CV. You could not write that stuff down on a CV and present it to a new employer. He doesn't hold any of those positions for more than a year. No CV that worth the parchment that is written on would feature jobs that you haven't actually sat sitting doing for less than a year. I mean, it's a good long while since I wrote a CV. God, can you imagine if I had to do that now? What are your skills and qualifications? The rest of it would just be completely blank. I've got a radio in the kitchen. Does that count? Meanwhile, Nigel Farage, who founded Reform and remains its honorary president, it's less a political party, more a company. Keep that in mind, always. It's not a political party, really, it's a company. And he is a major shareholder, Nigel Farage. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage, who founded Reform and remains its honorary president, twisted the knife yesterday saying that Sunak doesn't connect with ordinary people, by which he meant that ordinary people don't buy Rishi Sunak's lies. But Nigel Farage knows someone whose lies are believed by normal people, by which he means the hard of thought. But he didn't say it out loud, but I know a person who does say it out loud.
I love the poorly educated.
When Donald Trump tells you who he is, believe him, first time. The man has no filter. But Sunak yesterday insisted the Conservatives were making progress under his leadership. Anybody believe that? I don't know why he keeps saying it. No one's believing a word you say anymore. We're making progress under your leadership? I mean, it just doesn't ring true, does it? He's not a believable person. What we need is somebody with impeccable credentials, someone who has never misled the public, has never promised things that he couldn't deliver, has never sold us a pack of lies for his own benefit. But who could we get that fits that bill, Nigel Farage? What beacon of straightforward honesty could that be? Asked about Sir Simon's comments during a visit to Scarborough, the Prime Minister said that he had known that it wasn't going to be easy when he entered number 10 in October 2022, following Liz Truss's disastrous reign.
Absolutely.
But he added, I really do think that we are now making progress, citing recent falls in inflation and a 2p cut in national insurance. Yeah, that's made all the difference. He says, if we stick with this plan, then we can ensure that everyone has peace of mind and there's a brighter future ahead and a renewed sense of pride in our country. That's what I'm focused on, he said. I'll sum that up for you. What is he talking about? He doesn't believe this stuff. He can't. If we stick with this plan. Oh, there's a plan. Who knew? And what does he mean? That's what he's focused on. A renewed sense of pride in our country and this fantastical plan to ensure that everyone has peace of mind. I mean, it's just word salad, isn't it? It's just filling the air with noise and numbers signifying nothing. I thought, by the way, he was focused on stopping the boats.
Under my leadership, the government's priorities are your priorities.
You keep getting that wrong. Stopping the boats was his number one priority.
The country's priority is to stop the boats. And at the same time, I think people know that I'm relentlessly focused
on
stopping the boats.
No, you're not. Because apparently you're relentlessly focused on the plan, this fantastical plan that you allude to. Senior Tories of little backbone have backed Fishy Sunak, and their electorate is keen to demonstrate how they view that at the next election. And did you see the sword carrier to the king, Penny Mordaunt? She stood up and fought. Somebody said stand up and fight, and she stood up and fought. The Commons leader, Penny Mordaunt, actually stood up and fought for Fishy Sunak. She delivered this, I don't know whether it was supposed to be a joke, really, like the world's unfunniest joke, this teeth-curlingly embarrassing love letter to Fishy Sunak in the Commons that actually included this line: Mr. Sunak doesn't just get Britain, he represents the best of Great Britain. And he had chosen a life in public service, representing God's own country, despite having many career options. Career options for Fishy Sunak, please. 0345 6060 973. I'll start you off. Draft excluder, pipe cleaner, cocktail stick, dog toy. Former Deputy Tory Chairman Lee Anderson, and nothing good can come on the second half of that sentence. I mean, really, it doesn't really matter what I say from now on. You'd believe me, regardless of what I said. But he actually said in this instance that it would be absolute madness to change leader again. And if there's one man who knows about absolute madness, it's the member for a Neanderthal cave near you. Rebel backbencher Miriam Cates said appeals for blind loyalty were not enough at a time when the party is languishing behind Labour in the polls, rather missing the point that they're languishing in the polls because the party that's been in power for 14 years has led us to sickness and deprivation and poverty and misery. Asking to be given another chance isn't really going to work if the result of that power is the disaster that we see before us. And that's all that seems to consume the Tories. Not what's best for the country, but what's best for them personally. What a way to run a nation, eh?
Dreadful.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850.
This is absolute tosh.
Thanks, Nige. You're the best. You should consider becoming, or trying to become a Member of Parliament again. How did it go last time? Rochester. Hello, Lulu.
Hello, Nick, darling.
Lulu.
Speak to you. Hello, darling. I'm so glad you brought up the subject of E. Jean Carroll. I just read about the verdict. Oh, my God, it's beautiful, isn't it?
I bet it would be. I don't know where you're calling us from, Lulu. Are you speaking to us from a hot air balloon, perhaps, or a submarine? Maybe?
Darling, I'm virtually with my head out the window. Let me just try and get my head out a bit more.
Yes, lean your entire body out of the window, particularly if you're talking to me on a train. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
Well, kind of. Yeah, it's like it's like you're being chopped up into little bits that I'm having to rearrange. Go ahead.
Oh. Okay, so I just wanted to say I'm so glad about the verdict. He's a moron, Donny, because not only did he get convicted of raping her or sexually assaulting her, and then he went on to defame her on his crappy social app, and he just can't keep his mouth shut.
He just can't. No, well, he's never been corrected his entire life. That's the reason why. He's been able to do anything he wants to whomever he wants his entire gilded, perfumed life, and the reality is coming to smack him in the face.
Oh, I so want that to happen. But will she ever see any of that money, do you think?
No.
Yeah, because, Giuliani just got sued for millions by those two women, the voter people. And,
Right, they're not going to see any of that money. No, they ain't going to see none of that money neither. If Trump actually does, if Trump actually does pay out anything at all, he will have crowdsourced it from his demented yeehaw fans.
His stinglings, yeah.
And he won't actually personally pay out a single solitary penny. Betcha.
Yeah, I think you're right. Anyway, the reason I phoned you, Nick, I just wanted to introduce you to the concept of online jigsaw puzzles. Are you familiar?
No, I never heard of such a thing. An online jigsaw puzzle. How does that work?
Yeah, so you get, there's many sites. You can get free jigsaw puzzles, and you can do them. And of course, that negates the millions of bloody pieces all over your dining room table. So it's all online. And what is so beautiful is every time you put a piece that fits, you get a satisfying click.
Oh,
it's very addictive.
Yeah, but
it's wonderful. And
right.
yeah, and I got very addicted during lockdown. I was up till 4 a.m. doing these wretched puzzles. I couldn't stop. They're just really addictive. And also, you can upload your own photographs, and they make it into a jigsaw, and you can do it online.
Of my beautiful face.
Your beautiful face, yes, exactly. So, Google free online jigsaw, and I think it will change your life.
I'm
How
absolutely.
are you getting on with the moths, by the way?
Absolutely not going to do that, Lulu. But thanks for the advice. And I'm not anywhere near finishing the moths thing. It's. I just find it. You know what? I don't find it a pleasure. I find it just annoying. Jigsaws. I mean, I don't get any pleasure from doing it like I get pleasure from doing crosswords or Wordle or stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's just a hunt and it's just hunting and seeking. No, it's
and you have to keep going though, don't you? It's just you have to crack this thing. Like
you don't have to, Lulu. You can just give up. I'm on the verge of just giving up.
But you get compelled to.
No, I don't. Not compelled at all. No, I'm compelled to throw it away. All right, but thanks for the encouragement there, Lulu. Online jigsaw puzzling. No thanks. Ahmed says, I heard that Fishy Sunak was first to sign up for the army if there was a war, but he was let off as they couldn't find a uniform small enough. That's just offensive, Ahmed. Why must you be so nasty? Rachel says, can I just say, while I wish the king well, I do not wish to hear any more about the oversized growth between his rectum and his bladder. Oh, Rachel, His Majesty does not have a rectum or bladder. She says, neither do I want to hear about Fergie's moles or Kate's abdomen. Just don't, says Rachel. That's pretty offensive talk there, Rachel. And Clive says, 60 you say. 60 you say. Oh, no, 60 you say. 60 you say. Can I introduce you to a comma, Clive? 60 you say. So, Reese Smug will get called up. Will Nanny go too? Is Smug old, not reached 60 yet?
I don't know anything.
Like 160, 260, I would believe. He's younger than me. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. He was older than me when he was a child. I don't mean back in... Oh, never mind. Too complicated to explain that. If you understand what I mean, then you'll understand what I mean. And if you don't, you don't. And that's a fact.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Hot H-O-T-A-I-R.
Jacob Rees-Smug is apparently 54 years old.
You're better informed than I am. I don't know anything.
54. Good grief. So, if we get the call-up for everybody under the age of 60... then he will go. Well, he'll get called up, but he'll have a note from his nanny. Please excuse Jacob. His arms are too thin to actually pick up a musket. Patrick texts regarding the recent... I mean, he's the bloke who couldn't open a bottle of water. Do you remember that? He had to hand it to a hard man of Brexit, Steve Baker. And the way he's like trying to... Oh, God, it's just comical. How can anybody grow up to be 54 years old and not have the strength in his hands and arms to open a bottle of blooming water, for crying out loud? And be so entitled as to just hand it to the person next to him so that he'll do it for him. Like that. Patrick says, regarding the recent calls for conscription and preparation for war, I note that this year's World Economic Forum just took place. Perhaps the world's elite decided they want higher taxes and larger armies to repress the proles. Well, it does occur to me that what we're doing is ramping up the defence spending, which will be music to the ears of the defence contractors. And specifically this music. HAPPY-ness all around. It's like we're being conned. We're pushed into it. St Albans, hello, John.
Hello.
John.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, John.
Oh, am I on air?
Well, you were. I don't know, I'm just getting a very bad feeling about that one. How about you? Sam says, do you still have the "you're joking" on your soundboard? I saw the clip today, but I can't remember hearing it on your super show for a while. No, unfortunately I don't.
You're joking.
Paul says, I see the Canada deal has skipped away into the distance due to cheese. I blame the Brexit-loving Nigel Fromage. It's your lot, isn't it, Nige?
We've got a few idiots in our party.
Correct. I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I agree with Nigel Farage. Clacton. Hello, Ben.
Hello.
Ben.
Hello, Nick. There was a story this morning on the BBC. BBC reporter was holding up a document which was redacted about the post office scandal.
Oh, yeah.
And he'd got a copy. It wasn't redacted. And it says on the document that the government in 2014, the government and the post office were totally aware of all the problems with the Horizon system and kept quiet about it. Does that mean that the government are committing a crime by not saying anything about it, and all that misery caused over the last 10 years could have been avoided?
Ben, the government's
something about it.
Yeah, the government's answer will be that they are working night and day, and nothing is higher on their list of priorities. And 53% extra has been given compared to the previous Labour administration, which was £110 million less than the figure before. And the Prime Minister has been very clear about that.
Well, surely it's perverting the course of justice or some other crime connected with that. In fact, I just don't understand why the news story disappeared.
Post office bosses secretly decided in April 2014 to sack forensic accountants who had found bugs in their IT system, documents obtained by the show. They also revealed that the government had knowledge of the decision taken by a Post Office Board subcommittee codenamed Project Sparrow. Yes, well, I think there's a lot of people who should be in jail right now, and it's not the people who were actually in jail because they were falsely accused of nicking money from the post office.
It's just I haven't seen it much on any of the other... It's a very big story. It would normally be a very big story.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen much after that.
Well, this story was posted 6 hours ago, so give it time, yes. Maybe tomorrow.
Well, it deserves to come out, and it deserves to put another nail in the coffin of this horrible government. I mean,
yeah.
It's just...
I'm looking at The Independent. They, 4 hours ago, they posted, the Cameron coalition government knew the post office chiefs covered up the computer scandal. They knew it. Newly released documents show that the post office chiefs secretly ditched forensic accountants who found problems in the Horizon IT system with the full knowledge of David Cameron's coalition government.
I think this is nonsense.
A post office committee called Project Sparrow decided to sack Second Sight, a firm of investigators which uncovered evidence that the computer system was faulty, and bring the investigation in-house. Good grief. Don't solve the problem of people finding out about the problem.
Yes. Well, I hope it actually gets legs and carries on for a while, because there needs to be a lot more questions asked about it.
Can we just skip to the end where they say lessons must be learned and nothing further happens? Yeah. And by just mentioning this out loud, Ben, I think both you and me have got ourselves on some sort of list, which will also be redacted for your convenience. Doesn't mean to say that you're not on it, even if your name has been blacked out. Thanks a lot, Ben. 0345 6060 973. Jeff says, you don't need a trade deal. You don't need a trade deal to trade with the USA or Canada. It pays all countries to have free trade for their consumers. If the USA or Canada don't want that, just to keep their vested interests happy, then their consumers will pay the price, so more fool them, says Jeff, who has reduced something that's incredibly complicated down to a soundbite. Yes, Jeff, but if a business that is that your country's security depends on is then affected negatively by such trade, then it is not in the consumer's interest. I mean, if, for instance, your country was stupid enough to sign a trade deal with New Zealand and Australia that was dismally awful, so bad for your farming community that they were actually laughing at us on the news in Australia and New Zealand for having given up so much for practically nothing at all, then that would be not good for your consumers, because it would ruin the farming industry in your own country, which would make your food security less secure. Less secure. Yeah. Security, less secure. That's just a fact. Similarly, if you were being undercut by a car business, for instance, say from China, and China was subsidising its car industry to a greater extent than we are here, and if all this cheap stuff flooded in without a trade deal to prevent that from happening, then that would be not in the consumer's interest in this country, because our car industry would fail and all those jobs would be lost, and the jobs on the various businesses that deal with that industry would be lost. So it's not as easy as you suggest, Jeff. It does rather imply, Jeff, that you haven't thought about it for a single solitary second. 0345 6060 973. Woking. Hello, Jeff.
Hello, Nick.
Jeff.
Yes, another Jeff. Well, you might be pleased to know that there's some more Conservative MPs are concerned about the Prime Minister.
Oh, yes.
Because apparently tomorrow morning he's got a meeting with the Cabinet, and in the afternoon he's got a meeting with the fridge freezer, and then tonight he's got a meeting with his microwave.
A listener with material.
Oh, no.
Thanks, Jeff. 0345 6060 973. Ruby says, did you buy a calendar labelled, or called rather, Lionel Richie, with Sunak's face imposed on Lionel Richie's body in various poses? It's available on Amazon. No. I neither bought it nor knew that you could buy it. I was unaware that it was an actual real product. Why would anybody do that? I mean, other than Lionel Richie, I suppose it's a cute idea, but I'm having a look at it right now. Oh, my God. Actually, it's worth having a look. That's frightening. Imagine Titchy suit size with Lionel Richie's hair from the 1980s. That's shocking. £14.95, you say? That'd be cheap at twice the price. Let me just look inside. Oh, God, there's one with his top off.
Disgusting.
Oh, put it away, fishy. Nobody wants to see that. It's actually pretty good. It's pretty good. Rishi Sunak's face on Lionel Richie's body with his hair and everything. Top marks, whoever came up with that. Excellent work, that person.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Are you trying to be funny? Because I'm all out of laughs.
Nothing funny about it. 0345 6060 973. Let's have a call in Cheshire. John.
How's things?
Not bad. How's things with you?
Okay, so I read about the Conservative Party and then everything goes downhill.
Yeah.
I've noticed the struggle to give 500 million to struggling councils, and that money's for the kids' social services and stuff. And yet there was no problem bunging the French £500 million. So they could stop the boats coming over.
£500 million to stop the boats?
Yeah. They gave him that.
Right.
Yeah, they gave him £500 million. Well, 500 million, same thing, you know.
Approximately the same thing, yeah.
Yeah, but they struggle to give our own people the 500 million for the councils to look after the kids.
Yes. In 2019, the Institute for Fiscal Studies declared that the Department of Health and Social Care budget has been increased by 1.5% a year since 2010. 1.5% per year since 2010. Now, think of what the inflation rate has been. So that's not an increase, although the government would invite us to believe that, because that's the sophistry that they deal in. Yeah. It's actually a cut. Year after year after year after year after year, and it's left the NHS £23.5 billion worse off in the last decade, from which comes some of the care that you're talking about. So 500 million is as nothing if the figure that the health service is down by is getting on for 14 billion.
Drop in the ocean.
Yeah.
Drop in the ocean. Yeah, he can find money for the French so their police can do their job, because until then they weren't bothered, because their attitude was, they've left the EU, stuff them. We couldn't care less who goes over on the channel. Let them deal with it.
Yeah, well, it's our problem. They've offered to let us deal with people on that side of the channel before they embark on that risky manoeuvre. But we said no.
Yeah, aren't we great?
Yeah. Thanks, John. 0345 6060 973. That sounded borderline unpatriotic to me. I'm sure he didn't mean it. What he meant was, aren't we great? Like a bowl of cereal. I bet the king can't wait till he is back on his feet again, hearing that with every door that he opens, every carriage he gets out of, every building he exits. Such stirring music. Chris says, I want to be wrong here, but I think the Tories will watch the results of the May election and, depending on how bad a kicking they get, will then go for a December general election in the hope of a low turnout, means that they squeak a narrow majority. The way to counter this is that everyone aged 18 needs to get a voter ID and vote. Hey, kids! Wake up, sheeple. It's later than you think. That doesn't sound like a bad plan there, Chris, if you are a member of the Conservative Party, if you've joined that cult. Yeah, I think that because they, like Donald Trump's fans in America, they are single-issue obsessives. And the only thing on their mind is to get the dear leader back into power. And they will go out in any kind of weather you can throw at them. It doesn't matter if they have to crawl across broken glass with their knees and hands exposed to the cuts. They'll still do it. Whereas more sensible and sane people will take a look outside and think, I'll vote next time. And that's what the kids will do, regardless of what the weather's blooming well like. And the Conservative Party, their fans, those aged 65 plus, they'll go out in any kind of weather. So, yeah, I wouldn't be remotely surprised if they did pick a week that they thought that the weather would be absolutely abysmal in order to dissuade the competition from going out and placing their cross next to the red candidate. Let's have a call in Glasgow. Chrissy.
Oh, hi, Nick.
Chrissy.
Hi. I'm having a very serious few days, so I'm delighted that you're on air so that I can have a little bit of light relief. And it's nice to hear other people's points of view and things, but I'm not in the mood to kind of think of anything too heavy.
No.
But I wanted to say to you about Tom Swarbrick's show earlier on.
Yes.
He had asked people to call in who had moved abroad and either felt that their standard of living was much higher, and would they move back to the thing, given that, the thing. So a couple of ladies phoned in. One of them now lives in Spain, and of course she's living a beautiful sunny life out there, and she said, I couldn't afford to come back.
Mm-hmm.
She actually couldn't even afford to live here now. She said, I wouldn't be able to buy a property. She said, I doubt I'd be able to afford a rent. I would have to live with my child. And I thought, oh my God, this is where we're at now. People abroad couldn't even come.
Yeah.
She's going to have to get a dinghy and come across the channel like everyone else. The Netherlands, as well, there was a girl who stayed in the Netherlands, and she was earning double for a lesser job, and I believe it was with the same company. So she was, and she said that the standard of living was higher.
Yeah.
And I thought, these people are still wearing wooden shoes, for God's sake. Their standard of living's still better than ours. I mean, bloody hell, what's going on?
I mean, you look at America, and they got poverty right enough. They got poverty at least on a par with ours, but in pockets. But overall, the middle-class American lifestyle is something that we can't even dream of in this country. It's been that way since at least the Second World War, because, they weren't impoverished by the Second World War like we were. They did pretty good out of it. And ever since, and it seems to have been getting more and more distance between the two. And these days, well, I'll get to some research that said something like, I'll have to read it out when I get to it. But off the top of my head, something like half the people in this country need to double their wages in order to get out of being poor.
There were shocking things that people were saying about the cost of living. Most of the people that were calling were from down south, and it certainly seemed to be the further south you went, the worse it got. Yeah. Now, I happen to be coming to London next weekend for the first time, and don't worry, I'll avoid you, don't worry. I'm coming down to London next weekend for the first time in over 20 years.
Right.
And lo and behold, the train is cancelled due to strikes.
Of course it is, for your convenience, yes.
Yes, so I've had to pay for another night in the hotel to stay over so I can get the train the next day. It does cause enormous inconvenience, but then again, that's what a strike's designed to do, so I hope they'll actually figure it out. But any recommendations for things to see?
Yes, absolutely. I have recommendations for you, Chrissy. Bring a packed lunch, because you would not believe how much food costs here. And don't even think about going up to a bar and ordering a drink. At all. Not now, not ever, never.
Warning, warning.
The last round that I bought in a central London watering hole, 2 pints of lager, £21. What? £21 for 2 pints of lager. Yep.
I just lost a shoe size thinking about that. Really?
Yes, really.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna have to sit and can I afford the McDonald's? Is it the same price down there?
I would bring a bottle of Iron Brew and and your own whiskey, Chrissy, and just have a wee nip every now and again.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm going to have to, because at one point I'm going to the opera. So
bring a couple of bridies with you, Chrissy. Trust me.
Bridies, aye. Yeah. Have you ever had a bridie?
Of course I have. I grew up in Edinburgh.
Aye, I know that, but not everybody likes bridies. I think everybody's tried them, but not everybody likes them.
No, I hate them. Awful.
No, I'm not a fan of this, but they're too spicy, too peppery for me.
Yeah, who knows what's in those things?
I don't know. The same things that are in the pies at the football matches.
Yeah, probably, yeah, and in the last sausage that I ate as well, yeah. All right, I wish you all the best there, Chrissy. Don't bring your money with you. Leave it at home, where it'll be comfortable and warm. Lucy says, if this government has taught us anything this week, it's that Brexit has not made our trade negotiations great again. Still, at least that's another group of experts they can blame. Yeah, how come we are so dismally awful at negotiating trade deals? Is it because we don't have anybody with the competence to negotiate a trade deal?
Yes.
I believe that is true. Because while we were in the ew, we had actual real-life experts do our trade deals for us, which is why they were good. Since we've left, we've just had a bunch of numpties do our trade deal. You know, like that bloke who looks like a melting candle, who's just been put in charge of the government's action on climate change. The guy who doesn't believe that climate change is a thing was put in charge of the government's action on climate change. Great. It's also, what would Donald Trump do? He would do the absolute worst thing in any given circumstance.
Oh, shut up!
Appoint people to positions in institutions that they are ideologically opposed to existing. That's what he would do.
A president! Can you believe it?
And if he did it last time, when he had, some sensible people pushing back on his most extreme pronouncements, this time around, the people that are around him ain't going to make that mistake again. Oh, my God. I mean, I shudder to think of what's about to befall us. The human race has taken a wrong turn somewhere, that's for sure. If only we could find our way back. If we dropped breadcrumbs behind us, then we'd be able to do that, but sadly. 0345. Sadly, we did, but the rats ate them. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's at LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10, Nick Abbot, LBC.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
How are you?
I'm super, thanks for asking. I think we should get Jurgen Klopp to be the Prime Minister of this country. I mean, it's much less demanding than being the manager of a football team. And the man's got charisma, he's got personality, and the teeth. No leader of a country would have as many teeth as he has. I think that we should appoint him straight away, if not sooner. Jim says, if you do have to write out your CV anytime soon and need references, I could knock you up one if you like, says Jim. Appreciate it, Jim. Lucy says, if this government taught us anything this week, it's that Brexit has not made our trade negotiators great again. I think I've read that one before. Oh, my coffee's backing up on me, hang on. Oh, dear. Awful. You just can't chug coffee because it does decide to make you pay. 0345 6060 973. Conservatives, it says in the Super Soaraway Mail, fear ignominious defeat in 2 more by-elections taking place in Wellingborough and Kingswood, wherever they are. On March the 6th, Chancellor Jeremy Hunt is due to deliver his budget after both he and Titchy Suitsize talked up the prospect of major tax cuts, which we cannot afford, by the way, for the reasons that they have used to give junior doctors and teachers and police officers in the military the wage rises that they deserve. They've refused to do that for reasons that they say is because the government can't afford it. Because, said Fishy Sunak, we cannot afford it. Too much debt causes inflation, and so on. If you give people a tax cut, though, there'll be more people with more money chasing a finite number of products, which will cause inflation. Debt's still going up, prices are still going up, nothing has changed in the past few months to suddenly give them the room for tax cuts, except the dawning realisation that they're sunk as a party, and they want to cement in tax cuts for themselves that we can't afford, by their own admission, thereby forcing the next government to raise taxes again or cut spending, more austerity. I mean, they're less a government now. They're more a minefield preparation squad intent on comprehensively ruining the nation for whoever follows them. And after the next election, they will instantly take up positions blaming the Labour Party for the state of the country. I'll give it one day before they start doing that. And there's just enough people who will believe that to make it possible that the Tories will only be out of power for 5 years, not the forever that they deserve. So we've got local elections taking place on May the 2nd, which could see the Tories suffering big losses, huge. There's going to be councils and mayoral contests. Some MPs believe that it will be the key moment that a leadership contest becomes inevitable, arguing that many colleagues privately share the view that titchy suit size cannot win an election. So what's the bet that Sunak detonates the charges and abandons the ship in May? Nothing short of a miracle is going to prevent the Tories from losing the next election. So wouldn't it be totally on trend for Fishy to flounce out before they can chuck him overboard? Saying, well, if you don't support me, then none of you get to keep your jobs. Place your bets. Bet now. And time's running out, Fishy, because top Tory MPs discussed the idea that summer will be too late to change a leader, because they think that November is the favourite timetable for an election. Although that's when the screaming Mimi is going to be making a lot of noise. So I would expect that they'd want to distance themselves from that, from the election in Merca. Maybe they'll do exactly what I've been suspecting all along, and they'll cancel the next election for our safety. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now I feel much safer. Rishi Sunak said the only people who would be criticising us changing leader are the people who fear that they might be better. No, Rishi Sunak didn't say that. A top Tory said. It's one of these unnamed people that the paper... I don't know whether it's an actual person or whether the journalist just makes this stuff up. A source said... Really? Did they? So time is rushing out, Fishy Sunak. A top Tory MP dismissed the idea that summer will be too late to change the leader. November is being seen as the favourite timetable for an election. The top Tory said the only people who will be criticising us changing leader are the people who fear that the new leader might be better. Better? Oh, blimey. I mean, that just seems hard to believe, really. I mean, what, better than David Cameron?
I think this is nonsense.
Better than Boris Johnson?
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Better than the one that I've forgotten about. And I bet you had too. Mrs. M. Kick off your comedy clown shoes, Mrs. M. Put your feet up. Relax. You deserve it. Better than the Blunder Trust.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, they all think that they could pull off a Tory win at the next election. None more so than...
the great big greedy nincompoop.
The great big greedy nincompoop. That's who certain elements want back, because, I don't know, they missed the laughs. There was a period where he appeared to be able to walk on political water, like Jesus. Ipsos polling suggests 38% of the people who voted Tory in 2019 said they had a favourable view of Jeremy Dangerous Name, the Chancellor of the Exchequer. 38%. 28% said that of James Cleverly, that they had a favourable view. But the great big greedy nincompoop, Mr. Blobby, Bodger Johnson, has a favourability rating among Tory voters in 2019 of 43%. But, and it's a huge, wobbly but.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
At 34%, his unfavourability rating was higher than that of Sunak. So 43% like him, 34% hate him like poison. And there's a lot of that negativity. And that's a lot of Tory voters. It's like a love-hate relationship with the Bodge. For everybody else, it's just a hate-hate relationship with his imperial bodgeness. One of great enmity, dislike. We wouldn't trust him further than we could fling a walk-in fridge. But there's a contender in the wings. A fresh new face. Reform UK founder and honorary president Nigel Farage was viewed favourably by 43% of the people who voted Conservative in 2019. That's 1 point up from Fishy Sunak. And he was viewed unfavourably by just 29%, tied with the Prime Minister. So, they wouldn't really lose very much in ditching Fishy for Nigel Farage. Go on, Tories. Make the gaping toad your leader. I double dare you. Maybe next time that he angles for being a member of Parliament, he could lose to a man dressed as the back end of a pantomime horse. And complete his collection. 0345 6060 973. Camden, hello, Max.
Oh, hi. That was quick. Hello. Hi, Nick. Yes, well, can we kind of vaguely draw a line separating what's going on in America with here for a moment? Because it's all too tempting, isn't it, when you see people like Trump and Boris Johnson to say they're of the same.
Yeah.
And I don't know. What I was going to say was I watched Steve Bannon gulp on Paxton the other night. I don't know if you touched it or saw anything about the interview. But I came away going...
On Paxton?
Yes, on I know. He was interviewed on Paxton on TV.
Oh, I was thinking Paxman.
Oh, no, sorry. Paxman is probably having a cocoa somewhere and enjoying it.
Right.
But no, Paxton.
Paxton, right? The guy with the weird, affected delivery.
Well, the however you want to describe it, delivery. Yes. But anyway, no, he was there, and it was kind of like, wow, here is the sort of devil incarnate.
Which Paxton are you talking about?
He's the ITV equivalent of Newsnight, who does a show on TV during the week on TV.
Because my glamorous assistant next door has written up Ken Paxton on my screen. That's not. Who's that?
No, it's not Paxton. It's he's a
Peston. You're talking Peston.
Let me get my facts straight.
Yeah.
Peston, thank you.
Peston. Right.
Yes, I'm very sorry.
He draws out his vowels. Like that.
That's right, and he's very earnest. But Peston interviewed Steve Bannon.
Steve Bannon, right. Why would he want to do that?
Well, exactly. But anyway, I came away going, God, Steve, I understand you. And why I'm saying that is because I actually got what the whole American following of Trump and Steve Bannon is, which is it's very simple and it's very intelligent as well, the way they're putting it forward, which is saying, let's not be global, let's just think about America.
Yeah.
And if you take that stance, everything fits. Because in the past, you've had Obama, who's been a very kind of academic, lovely guy, too thinking, perhaps not active enough. And now you've got, as you said yourself the other night, the lovely old Biden, who's made out of parchment. So you end up with everyone thinking, what's the heart of America? And it's Trump. You know, the old idea of...
I don't know whether you're being sarcastic right now. You're seriously saying to me that having listened to Steve Blooming Bannon...
No, I'm not...
That you believe what he is saying and what Trump is saying is good for America?
No, I'm not saying it's good for America, but I understand why people are following it. That's my point.
Well, because they misunderstand what it is that he and Trump are doing. They're not for America, they're for themselves,
yes,
personally.
Exactly, but that's part of American pioneering spirit. That's my point.
No, it's not pioneering spirit, it's just lying, is what it is.
Well, I know there's part of that as well, but I can understand why it appeals, because they're so kind of, weak, pro-nationalism, that's why. In other words, I understand, in detail...
Well, that's not an American trait. That's you can get patriotism out of any country's people.
Well, don't you think, though, because America kind of started out with farms and Wild West and sheriffs and everything else, that kind of, quite relatively recently, that appeals to some Americans? I don't know. I think it might do.
What does?
That whole idea of I won't stand down, I'm tough, I'm strong, I think about myself, and we can do anything.
Yeah, I guess if you want to live your life pretending that you're in a movie, then I guess it does appeal. Yeah, but in the real world,
Oh, and I agree. It's nothing to do with the real world. But what I'm saying is, sorry, Nick, all I was saying was I kind of got why they are popular with certain people in America.
Right. Oh, I'll sum it up for you.
I love the poorly educated.
That's why they're popular with certain people in America, because they're poorly educated, because they're delusional. Dingalings. But thanks a lot, Max. 0345 6060 973. Dan says, is it me or do other people feel that Fishy sounds more nasal when he knows he's talking complete and utter tosh? And it appears that we hear that tone all the time now that he's constantly fibbing. Yeah, he also bounces up and down and has that sort of desperate, sad look on his face, like a puppy's just pooped on the kitchen floor. Knows it's done wrong. Alice says, when you've uploaded your face, why not throw in the odd thumbprint as well? All grist to the data scraping mill. I think that's in reference to a conversation I was having some while ago about jigsaw puzzles. I ain't going to upload my face to nowhere. My beautiful face. No. Oh, and that nice lady that I was talking to earlier on, or I think I was talking to her. Perhaps in addition, I was reading one of her tweets. Anyway, somebody said that they're going to send us a Lionel Richie calendar with Rishi Sunak's face on it. Please don't do that. I'm begging you, don't do it. Do not waste your money. Spend it on yourself. Do something good with it. I mean, it's going to go. I'll open it, look at it, and then throw it away. I mean, you think I'm going to put it on the wall? Nobody here will do that. So save your money. Trust me. And by that method, I am doing my bit to protect the environment. No tree was hurt in the production of this show.
Nick Abbot on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Right, so what are we doing?
Gibbon, we are doing a radio show, but it does remind me that I do a podcast twice a week now with Carol McGiffin. We have gone bi-weekly, baby. And the idea is that we solve people's dilemmas. Do you have a dilemma that you need solving? Send it to the unprofessionals at nickandcarol@global.com. That's NICKANDCAROL @global.com, and gird yourself for a certain amount of satisfaction.
Oh, right, yeah.
Ask for it by name on an internet near you. What's your problem with Nick and Carol? Comes out now Fridays and Mondays. I think you'll love it.
Oh, right, yeah.
What's your problem with Nick and Carol? It's on Global Player. Now then, Merthyr Tydfil. Hello, Jeff.
Hey, how you doing, Nick?
Good,
how
thanks.
Things?
Yes, very well.
As far as I can tell, coal extraction has ceased.
Good.
Up in Forsafran.
Right.
But I was in the Vale Glamorgan today and a train passed me full of coal, so that could only be coming from one place. So they're probably coming from a stockpile. The other thing that I wanted to put you in the picture with, there's a media newspaper called The Nation in Wales, and they've come up with this article which I think you might be interested in. It's called, they've discovered a 10-year-old film called Independence, okay, in which it's all reported there, but apparently it's a naughty film, so I'm not sure whether or not you're allowed to see it. Okay, but in it, the heroine fights for Welsh independence. Okay, and they take on the British, state for independence. Most of the film is given over to other activities. The main man, leading man in it, is a fella called Bendover. and in the critique of the film, the reporter for The Nation has put it that he thought his performance was very wooden.
Yes.
So I don't know what the quality of this film is, but the principle involved I've lots of sympathy with. But I just wondered if you could, because I can't get it on my timeline or anything, so I haven't seen it. I have to say I haven't seen it.
Right. You couldn't pass the test to prove that you're over 18, I understand.
Exactly. I'm a bit young for this. The thing is, the other thing, before you go, I was horrified to find that you spent £21 on 2 pints of lager.
Yes, that's right. £21.
And I've told you how many times the Goose and Cuckoo do top-rate lager for £4.50 a pint.
Well, unfortunately, it's a bit out of my way, but if ever I'm passing the Goose and Cuckoo, then I will certainly pop in and give it a shufti.
Okay.
All right, thanks a lot, Jeff. Keep your eyes peeled. Oath and your hands above the desk at all times. I mean it. 0345 6060 973. I just tried to find that story, couldn't. I spent the entire time that I was talking to him furiously scrolling, and I could not find that story. So he could have been completely making it up. Who knows? More importantly, who cares? Chrissy says, job for Rishi? Paint roller, kids' clothes shop mannequin, bingo marker. His greasy hair would leave a lovely blob. You pick him up by his legs and just bash the top of his head onto your bingo card when you hear your number. That's a good idea, Chrissy. Jess says, I can't stop laughing about Smug being unable to open a bottle of water. It's evolution in action. I expect they all have to wait in rooms in his house until the dog wants to go out because it's the only one strong enough to turn the handle. Yes. Yeah, they have to wait till Nanny comes in the morning to let them out their bedroom. Nanny. Oldbury, hello, Ranjit.
Hi, Nick, you okay?
Yes, good, thanks.
Yeah, I want to talk about GDP and everything, yeah?
No.
Okay. The government, when they want to work out what industries are affected on what they invest, yeah? Okay. They said that the fishing industry, it won't be affected by us leaving the EU.
Yes.
And they thought because it's like zero,
they didn't say it won't be unaffected. They said you won't be able to count the money you've been making. You'll be so rich, or words to that effect.
Yeah, words to that effect. Yeah, but what the Joe public doesn't understand, right? That when we was in Europe, we was getting subsidies for the farmers and everything. Yeah, and like now, we're paying nearly £15 a bag of potatoes when we should be paying about £5.5, £6, maybe £7.
God, is that what it was, say, last year or the year before?
Yeah, the year before.
Wow.
Yeah, right. So everything now is doubled. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this now affects everybody, right? They've got to eat. Okay, they've got to heat their houses. So now, all these people who are still jumping up and down like behind Nigel Farage, yeah, and saying, "Oh, he should be our next leader." The guy doesn't know nothing about nothing, I'm afraid. Right? All he is an opportunist person, right? That likes to exploit the current situation.
Well, I think like his close personal friend Donald Trump, they like to exploit the easily led.
Yeah, easily led. Now, they're going on about, giving £500 million to Tata, right? Mm-hmm. And giving overseas aid, because these are divisive things that your local dingling, right, will understand. Now, when we give money to India, like £800 million in overseas aid over 3 years, right? I remember when David Cameron went to India and the Indian finance minister told him, he says, "Oi, mate, we're not monkeys, so don't feed us peanuts. We don't need your overseas aid." That's what they told him, right? And it was, all these are lucrative payments to gain business, right? That's why Rishi Sunak won't say nothing against India, no matter whatever they do, because he's looking for that next paycheck coming from India in investments. Right? And
his wife has a lot of investments in India. Everybody knows about that. Whether he does personally, I've got no idea.
No, well, yeah, but what I'm saying is, right, we now, right, from being pioneers of the world, are looking for handouts from anybody that will give us something now, right? But the 5% of the people that control the wealth of this country, right, are really laughing it up now. And most of us are struggling, and like you always say, the masses are asses at the moment, and if they don't realise now that they're not, if they don't feel the pinch by now, they're never going to understand anything. And that's what worries me about people. These dinglings are breeding. Okay.
Yes, that is undeniable. Leave us with that excruciating thought. Hey, wake up, sheeple. It's later than you think. Ranjit's spot on the money there. Excellent work there, Ranjit. Thanks for that. So I've just found this story. This is from the Nation newspaper. They say Welsh independence is on the rise, and here's the proof. A forgotten pornographic film from more than a decade ago has been unearthed, and at its heart is the unlikely subject, for an adult movie at least, of Welsh independence. Titled Independence Day, not that one. This eyebrow-raising flick, which is strictly not about aliens invading Earth and does not star Will Smith, is made by adult film company Bluebird Films.
Disgusting.
The home of such eye-opening titles as... I can't read that. I can't read that. Only Fools and... something that rhymes with horses but doesn't start with the letter H. And Harry Pawnter. Oh, that's weak. That's terrible. Harry Pawnter? Oh, come on, you've got to do better than that. Since the post appeared on X, formerly Twitter, I wonder if Elon Musk realised that when he called it X, nobody was going to follow him and call it X. Everybody now who writes about it says X brackets formerly known as Twitter. So that's its title now, X formerly known as Twitter. You know, for a genius, he's not that smart. Anyway, since a post appeared on X, formerly known as Twitter, revealing this long-forgotten movie, it's been the talk of social media. Well, not social media where I live. Not any kind of social media that I've seen. Oh, and that's the end of that story. Oh, no, hang on a minute. Read more. There is more. More detail. You want to know more details? You want to know every tiny little last detail?
Leading Britain's conversation. Nick Abbot. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
I really like you. Do you like me?
Yeah, there's a lot of liking going on in this video that has just been brought to my attention. It's about Welsh independence, but not in the way that you would think. The adult movie made about Welsh independence, screams the headline in Nation today. Released in 2010, it features Welsh porn star Stacey Saran from Cardiff as Dafina Jones, a fighter for Welsh independence, but when she's not fighting, she's loving instead, as the blurb for this off-the-wall romp proclaims, says a Nation newspaper. Dafina is travelling across the UK with her petition demanding independence for Wales from the UK after nearly 740 years of British rule. This is an adult movie. I mean, come on. Starring adult movie industry legend Ben Dover as pompous government minister Lord Dover, the politician responsible for a decision on allowing Wales to break away from the rest of the UK. It features the sort of acting that would be described as wooden, except that would be an insult to trees. And on and on and on it goes. Trading on the Welsh tropes of miners, daffodils, leeks and singing. Yeah, that sounds like an adult film, yes?
No.
No, not really, no. And I apologise for bringing it to your attention. Isn't that awful?
Dreadful.
0345 6060 973. Let's have Glasgow. Hello, Graham.
Hello, Nick. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Thank you. I just wanted to give a shout out to Nicola Sturgeon and her missing WhatsApp messages this week that have been uncovered.
Oh, yes.
Calling Mr. Johnson
wait.
Yes.
Clown.
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot wait for next week. I've got multiple bags of popcorn. Can't wait for her to sit in that seat.
Yes.
Cannot wait to hear what else is going to come
I know.
from the clown show.
Isn't it
How
exciting?
many Boris's can you fit in a mini? Who knows?
All right, keep your eyes peeled. I want a full report as soon as you hear anything at all. Thanks a lot, Graham. Yeah, Nicola Sturgeon expressed herself in earthy terms, and she was completely correct in every respect. Agreed with every single solitary syllable. Rob says, I've just seen the Lionel Richie calendar. Mr. April is an absolute dream. Julie says, I see Simon Case is back. He looks rested and ready to face the COVID inquiry. Oh, he's just gone sick again. Chris says, he said he would solve the Russia-Ukraine war in 24 hours as he knew that presidents like they are his buddies. Trump, I assume that you're talking about. Trump said he would solve the Russia-Ukraine war in 24 hours as he knew the presidents like they are his buddies, says Chris. Yeah, and the president of Ukraine said, what? Or whatever that is in Ukrainian. He said, He said, come over here and tell us what your big plan is, you tangerine scream, he said. 24 hours. He said, I wouldn't need 24 minutes to tell you that you don't know what you're talking about, said the president of Ukraine to the tangerine scream, who's a little busy at the moment. He's crowdfunding. $83 million.
I make $400 million a year, so what difference does it make?
Yeah, he doesn't. The only thing he's ever done successfully is kid on to America that he is a successful businessman. He has failed in pretty much every business business field that he has invested in. I mean, I've only got a brief 3-hour show, so I can't give you a list of all of his failed business ventures, but look him up on the World Wide Web and, put aside a couple of hours. It's a big, long list. He couldn't even make a casino work. East Yorkshire. Hello, Mike.
Hi, Nick. Yeah, just a bit on that Bannon subject. He was on Mar and Peston and Newsnight this week.
Why? Why was he?
Well, he's obviously over here doing something or other, visiting the far right.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm sure it's above all above board. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but what worries... I mean, Trump is a sort of self-serving narcissist, and that's bad enough. That's Mr. Bobby level. But Bannon does actually worry me because some of the stuff he comes out with is deeply troubling. Like, they've trained up 3,000 people so that on day one they can replace the administration and civil service in Washington with MAGA fanatics.
Yeah.
Now, that is frightening. I mean, if you imagine that if Reform Party said, we've trained up a load of civil servants, we're going to replace a lot of them. Yeah. That would scare people. And what Bannon's proposing should bloody scare people.
But it's not they've trained up those civil servants. It's that they showed up for a fans meeting, so they said, you'll do.
Well, maybe, but the consequence of removing all the sensible ones that are there and have been there for years, it worries me. But anyway, the reason I really rang up was, did you notice the announcement of the 6th Tory tribe? I mean, Mark Francois had 5 tribes with the Rwanda thing. Yeah. But the 6th one to launch is on the 6th of February. The popular Conservatives to join the Common Sense Conservatives, the New Conservatives, the ERG, the Northern Research Group. And this is Truss, Jai Wardner, Mogg and Clark.
They're the popular Conservatives? Liz Truss, the popular Conservatives? Are you joking?
It's mental, but then she apparently, when interviewed, said, why are you setting this group up? And she said, we need a group that will seriously influence
the proposals we put forward for the next election.
The delusion with these people is strong. I just cannot believe that they think that we still have an interest in what they have to say. They had their chance and they blew it.
But I mean, Sunak. I mean, can you imagine Sunak adopting a right-wing policy for the next election? Because if he actually somehow struggled to a one-seat majority, he wouldn't want to put it through. He didn't believe in it. So that it just can't happen.
I think that I get the idea that Rishi Sunak just believes in anything that's going to advance the cause of Rishi Sunak. Just exactly the same as you know who, him. They're all alike, and I don't think that it's a question of whether he believes in going further to the right. It's just that if I say this, do focus groups determine that I will become more popular, and whatever it is that they say, that's what he'll do. I don't think he believes any of it. You think that Rishi Bloomin' Sunak is concerned about people arriving here in small boats, like it's his number one priority? Do you think he could give a used cashmere hoodie for the people in the small boats? Not remotely interested. And yet he's kidding on that that's his number one priority.
Yeah, well, not in the least. It's like this latest rubbish that's come out, British Homes for British People. I mean, it's absolutely bizarre because 19% of people living in Britain were either not born in Britain or our children are people not born in Britain. But those immigrants only get 10% of social housing. They don't even get their fair share. So where is all this British Homes for British People coming from? It's trying to bring on side those of little or no thought. It's just exactly what Donald Trump is doing, and he's trying to appeal to those of little or no education. Easily led. And if you start yelling about, well, you know, I mean, the amount of times that I've heard people call in against the idea of giving some of the most desperate and poor people on earth a shelter, they say, well, you know, we shouldn't be giving all of our money to all of these people who come here. We should be taking care of our own, as though it's an either or. Yeah, but I know. But it's dog whistle stuff. We know. But what they didn't sneak out until it emerged was that they're now letting asylum seekers work, and they desperately hid that for months. And it was only journalists that dug out that asylum seekers who've been here long enough are now being allowed to work in care and agriculture. They didn't promote that, did they?
They're being allowed because we're begging them on our knees. Please disregard everything that we've said about you over the last 14 years. Now we welcome your presence. Appreciate it.
It's also dishonest, misleading, dog whistling.
It's also what would Donald Trump do, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, all right. Thanks a lot, Mike. 0345 6060 973. Can't wait to see Mr. April on the Lionel Rishi calendar. Rob says the picture is an absolute dream. He's beside himself. He's thinking of starring in a Welsh film. Chris says he said he would... No, I've read that one. That's whoever he was. Trump. Archie says, with crime always in the papers, I've heard an effective solution has been discovered. Apparently just a few minutes inhaling nitrogen gas from... yeah, okay. Poor taste. A fist writing on this show.
Leading Britain's conversation. Nick Abbot. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Listen to him. He knows everything.
Archie says, with crime... No, did I read that one? Yes, I believe I did. I bailed on it halfway through. Don't make me say it again. Steve says, what's your favourite golf-related song? Mine is Spandau Ballet, Golfy Golfy. Now, I'm assuming that Spandau Ballet did not do a song called Golfy Golfy, but I have absolutely no idea what that is in reference to. I'm not really very up with Spandau Ballet. They were a bit, I don't know, what's a PC way of saying girly? A little bit girly. Apart from chart number 1, I Don't Need This Pressure On. That's a fabulous track. But, my interest waned almost immediately after I'd heard that one. Nothing else, no, it's a no from me. It's like the Human League. Being boiled is a yes. Everything else is a no. Plymouth. Hello, Julie.
Hello, Nick. As a girlie, I had a Spandau Ballet poster, but I still don't know what reference that chap's making.
Golfy. No,
Golfy.
No idea. Yeah.
Oh, Nick, as you mentioned bluebirds, I just want to remind you that it's a garden birdwatch weekend.
Oh, really? Right.
Just need an hour. Any time of day, obviously daylight. Although, Nick, you might see some owls if you go night time.
Oh, I can hear owls near where I live.
Oh, see, yeah.
But not see them. That's you don't really get to see them, do you?
You don't know. No, you don't. Unless one's in your literal tree, but no.
They go.
Yes, they do. And they screech as well. They are noisy. And also, I'm wondering if Nicola Sturgeon missed a trick there with the old Welsh idea. Bless her.
What, make a film about Scottish independence?
Yes.
Right. For those of short attention span, keep them interested in another way.
Disgusting.
Awful.
No, I totally agree. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
I wanted to follow up on talking to your grandma's assistant on what Chrissy said about her trip to London the first time in 20 years.
Yeah. Don't do it, Chrissy.
I haven't been for about 15 years. And your grandma's assistant was saying as a young professional, living in London, how difficult it is. And we're talking expats that can't afford to come back and live in this country. I mean, it's a bit messy when, people that live in the UK can't afford to visit London, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, welcome to the 14th year of Conservative rule. Absolutely everything is worse now than it was before. Everything. Apart from London itself. I mean, I would say, having lived here since 1978, I'd say that London continues to get better. I mean, the infrastructure is better. You know, we've got this exciting new Elizabeth line, which bisects the town left to right. We've got, there's no end of
I was
exciting
lucky to live
buildings that are going up. But you need money, though, Julie. You need cash, cash.
And I was lucky. I was living and working in Kent, and I was able to go up to London, enjoy the theatre, the West End, the ballet.
Well, you won't be able to do that anymore.
No, I don't. I can't do that anymore. But then again, I'd rather go to Cornwall or, more into Devon and sort of do a bit of bird watching or have a look at the waves.
Right,
but
it's free as opposed to a theatre production, which will cost you £300.
What? Exactly. It's all ridiculous. And also, I'd go to London now and I'd be like, oh my gosh, what's that tall spiky building? What are those things running across the air? What are those bicycle things taking people around? It all would be a bit shocking, I think.
Yeah. Well, it's changed a lot since you were here last, believe me.
I see it on TV programs and I'm like, oh my goodness, look, cable cars. This, that, the other. I'm like,
about the cable cars, Julie, if you do ever come down this neck of the woods, I would give the cable cars a swerve. I'm never going up on that thing again.
Thank you, Nick. I won't then. I did the London Eye before I moved. But also, to Chris, if she's still listening, there's obviously some free museums which she should have a look at before she goes. Maybe she can enjoy them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, we got no end of that. We got no end of free museums. Why they're free? I don't really know. I mean, if they just charged everybody £1, then their funding problems would be over. But they insist on.
Still very worth it. Some great.
Of course,
museums.
I mean, who can't afford £1 that would ordinarily go to a gallery? I mean, it's £1 for crying out loud. You can't get. I was charged £4 for a cup of coffee the other day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's probably a cheap one. You probably went cheapo.
It was it was in a service station on a motorway. So yes, no fancy place. It was that was the takeout price, £4. I could not believe it.
I totally agree with you about. I mean, even though it's nice for museums to be free, maybe free for children, but we can pay £1 because you get so much out of them. They are amazing in London.
I mean, they talk about it as though we must keep them free for the tourists because when I go to a major gallery, most of the people in there are tourists. Brits don't really bother. I mean, you go to the Natural History Museum or the British Museum or the V&A or all these big places, they're full of tourists. Now, every other place that you go to a major museum, you're paying on, in Europe or America, you're paying £10, £20 to get in.
Yeah,
and it does not
totally.
stop you from going there on holiday,
because
does
you're
it?
a tourist.
Exactly.
Totally. And also, I mean, Chrissy would be cheaper saving up and going over to Verona and watching live opera in the amphitheatre than probably going to like the Royal Opera House. It's all madness, isn't it? But
plus, when you get there, Julie, they've got opera on. Ugh.
Boring. Oh, Nick, I love it. Nick, can I say just one more thing?
Go on.
I want to apologise. I gave, during the A to Z, Bobby, the eldest dog, Guinness Book of Records. But there's some sort of, since the new year, there's been some sort of looking into it. Was he? So I don't know if it went into your aid because I haven't got it yet because I want to get it I want to get the e-book, but not from Amazon. I'm not an Amazon person.
I don't think you can get it from anywhere else.
Well, I'm going to find it somewhere, Nick. I'm not having it. I'm not paying them. Sorry.
Well, you just don't think of it as
paper book, then,
yeah, but don't think of it as paying them, Julie. Think of it as buying me almost a full cup of coffee.
Getting you a coffee from a better establishment.
Yeah.
Right,
about a half a cup, something like that. That's what I get. All right, thanks a lot, Julie. She's talking about the book, What I Wrote, with your help. I wrote like a commentary of last year, of some of the stupidest things that happened to us last year, and I put it in a book called Perfectly Normal in a Well-Run Country. And it is available on ebook form for people who love trees and paperback form for people who hate trees. And it's called Perfectly Normal in a Well-Run Country, and it's available on Amazon. I can't mention them by name, but it rhymes with Amazon. And don't think of it as paying them, because Jeff Bezos don't need no money. Jeff Bezos is doing just fine. But think of it as buying me almost 3/4 of a cup of coffee, something like that. And I'll appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hannah texts, Mr. Integrity decided to start the year by announcing that the asylum seekers backlog was cleared, just like that, overnight. How impressive. Isn't this the most efficient government that this country has ever had? Some politicians genuinely think that people are stupid, and maybe those who vote for them indeed are, says Hannah. Well, just as long as you don't say anything controversial, Hannah. But, they, at this point, it's not too cruel to say that you really cannot believe a single solitary word that these people say anymore. I mean, they've proven that that is true. It's kind of a depressing place to be, really, isn't it? I mean, this is where we found ourselves. And we appear to be being taken advantage of at every turn, as though we have no experience of their mendacity. Adam says, have you heard that Tichy is planning on unleashing his billionaire wife to go knocking on doors, apparently to make him seem more human? And then he's written, ha 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 with an exclamation mark. No, I had not heard that, and I would advise against it if I were him. Clive says, I think the biggest Brexit benefit has been that Brexit is causing the total collapse of the Conservative Brexit Party. Well, it's ironic, yes. It's ironic that the thing that that moon-faced creep who used to be our dear leader...
I think this is nonsense.
Brought Brexit upon us in order to quell the dissent on the benches behind him. And ever since, it has been the party of dissent. How many factions is it now? 7? 6, 7? I've lost count. And interest. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. And if you're on Twitter, it's at LBC. Mark texts, Blunder Truss will be happy as we will not be importing Canadian cheese anytime soon.
That is a disgrace.
It was a disgrace. On that, she was very clear.
I'm genuinely unclear.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
What are you talking about?
Well, let's talk about Jurgen Klopp. So who's going to replace... And I'm absolutely not throwing this out as a topic, but I'm just curious as to who's going to replace Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool. And there's a certain high-profile manager that has recently become available. How about Jose Mourinho?
No.
Yeah. No. Will texts, I think they raided the toolbox for something nostalgic and came up with David Cameron. I felt it when the Beeb got that unredacted post office document and he ran off to another country. Yeah, running off to other countries in a time of... oh, God. Every now and again, I walk myself up a cul-de-sac, and I know that I can't finish it, but I walk myself up it anyway. I believe that running away to another country in a time of peril, it seems to be an old Etonian thing.
I think this is nonsense.
Exactly. Mary texts, where does all the £115,000 that ex-PMs get go? That's a pretty torturous sentence there. Mary says, surely it doesn't cost this much for secretaries and office duties for just being an MP. I don't think they deserve this amount, as it would be better spent on the NHS. Surely this is where most of the missing money is going, into ex-PM's pockets and MP's pockets. For what? 2 question marks, says Mary, like she's shouting at me. What does Liz Truss need that amount for? Says Mary. There's quite a long text, this. What does Liz Truss need that amount for her 43 days in office and wrecking the economy?
Absolutely.
She should go to prison for what she did, not rewarded with a handsome salary for life. I think any Prime Minister or Member of Parliament, if they mess it up big time, should at least pay a massive fine for every year the economy is paying for their mistakes, says Mary, who has most certainly put herself on some sort of list with that outburst. Chris says, have you seen the list of names that Nicola Sturgeon had for the pack around Johnson during the COVID pandemic? If not, look them up. Yeah, I did. Yes, I did. Yeah, she expressed herself in builder's language.
Disgusting.
Awful. But completely correct in every respect. Hugh says, I remember when a pint of bitter was 2.5 pence and they still made a profit. No, you don't. 2.5 pence. What would you get for 2.5 pence in Canada? Nothing. British negotiators walked away from trade talks with Canada this week, says a Canadian broadcast outlet. I thought I might as well go to the source and see what they're saying about this. So the Canadian Broadcast Company is what I got this from. It's a dramatic development, it says, that puts the brakes on a bilateral trade deal between the 2 Commonwealth nations that has been years in the making. Years. A major sticking point between the 2 sides is that the Canadians do not realise that we hold all the cards, that trade deals are easy and that we're British. Damn it! Actually, the reason it's all gone wrong is how much tariff-free access UK producers should have to the Canadian cheese market. The Canadians are taking our cheese, Liz.
That is a disgrace.
After Brexit, an interim agreement kept tariff-free British cheese on Canadian shelves for 3 years. That more permissive regime expired at the end of last year. Negotiators have been working on a longer-term bilateral deal to replace the liberalised trade that the UK enjoyed under the terms of Canada's Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement with the European Union. No! That's what we've been trying to do. Go back to where we were before we were stupid enough to leave the EU. It's taken them 2 years, and they've come up with nothing. This is the Canadian Broadcast Company explaining it to us. Negotiators, well, they weren't explaining it to us necessarily. They were explaining it to their local readership, but I decided to take a wee peek. Negotiators have been working on a longer-term bilateral trade deal to replace the liberalised trade that the UK enjoyed under the terms of Canada's Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement with the European Union. That's why it used to be easy, because we were in the EU, and they had experts on trade and negotiation. We just had that bloviating melting candle. You know, we were in the European Union, and we had better trade deals than we've been able to fashion since we have been out of the European Union, which is the exact opposite of what we were promised. Isn't that right, Bodge? Yes. In the aftermath of the renegotiation of the former North American Free Trade Agreement, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau promised dairy farmers no more slices of Canada's domestic market would be served up to exporters in future negotiations. Now, they got a deal with the EU, Canada. 15%. Representatives from the Dairy Farmers of Canada have argued that we, in the UK, should be negotiating with the EU to recover our share of the EU's share of the Canadian market. Now, we used to have 15%. Now, we left the EU, we got nothing. And they're trying to spin that into a positive, our lot. So, representatives from the Dairy Farmers of Canada say that the UK, instead of trying to get a chunk from the Canadians so that we can sell our produce into Canada, we should recover some of the EU's share that we used to enjoy when we were a part of the European Union, 15%, based on, how many people live here. 15% of the market access Canada handed over to foreign competitors under the trade agreement that we used to enjoy when we were part of the EU. Canadian Agriculture Minister Lawrence Macaulay told reporters that Canada would not agree to a deal that was not good for Canadian farmers. Well, why not? Our lot agreed to deals that weren't good for British farmers. I mean, the deals that our lot negotiated were so bad that Australians and New Zealanders were actually laughing at us on the news in Australia and New Zealand. You've probably seen that clip. Barely could they contain their laughter, the newsreaders, when they were reading out the terms and conditions of the trade deals that we negotiated with Australia and New Zealand. But it's worse than that. It's worse than farming and cheese, because talks are also faltering on drafting new roles for automotive trade between the UK and Canada. European and Canadian assembled automobiles enjoy preferential access to each other's consumer markets under the deal that we used to enjoy as part of the EU. Now, the EU deals lay out rules of origin that determines what constitutes a European automotive export for the purposes of lowering tariffs into Canada. Now, since we are no longer part of the European Union, those rules expire on March the 1st. And exports from the now independent British automotive industry are set to lose their preferential access to the Canadian market. So, I mean, if you saw two cars side by side and one was vastly more expensive than the other with no good reason, which one would you buy? It's all exactly as we were told it would be. The complete opposite, in fact. Those people of evil intent that sold us the lies of Brexit, they've cashed in, they've made their money, they've floated off in a lifeboat of money to let us poor dopes who pay taxes live with the consequences of the decision they conned us into making. Automotive trade in and out of Canada is subject to a tangled web of trade agreements, each with different rules. There's one for the EU, there's one for North America in total, there's the one for the Trans-Pacific Partnership, there's a bilateral trade agreement with South Korea, and we're outside all of that, on our own, bobbing about on the sea, unloved, no place to go. British vehicles risk landing outside these competitive, tariff-free supply chains if the two sides cannot find a way forward. And as we've fallen over at the cheese hurdle, it seems unlikely, don't it? I mean, cheese, not that complicated. Cars, much more so. And we flounced out because of a tax on cheddar after 3 years of negotiations. I mean, I wouldn't bet on a breakthrough, especially as the Tories appear to be more concerned with career planning than actually, leading the country at the moment. They're all worried about their money, honey. So failure to reach a deal with Canada before these cheese and automotive deadlines pass could hurt British exports, says the Canadian Broadcast Company. But you probably didn't hear it like that because you were reading a British paper. Most likely a right-wing British paper. It was harumphing about how Canada should understand that we're the one that's holding all the cards. We're the only country that thinks that we are holding all the cards. The news obviously hasn't been broadcast. From Canada's strategic perspective, says the Canadian Broadcasting Company, there's less immediate economic urgency to reach a deal. So we're desperate, and they're not that bothered, because we're not that important to them. I think if there's one thing that leaving the EU has actually shown us is our place in the world, and it's not as we imagined. We're a relatively unimportant tax haven off the coast of Europe that has a sideline in weapons manufacturing. The Canadians' top negotiator said that at the moment their government is focused on ratification of the revised Canada-Ukraine trade agreement rather than anything that we've got to say. That's, wow. I mean, talk about bringing you down to earth with a bump. That's how important we are to Canada. Behind Ukraine in the queue. And Ukraine's on fire right now.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
0345 6060 973. Chris says, is this proof stupid people end up hurting themselves or their kids? As some people stopped immunising kids with the MMR, and now measles cases are rising. Sadly, morons that shout the loudest do the most harm to others, says Chris. Well, there's a grain of truth in that, yes. Morons. We're surrounded by morons. And there's no vaccine for that. Will says, Elon Musk is a genius. He was born with a father who owned half an emerald mine. And I was just looking that up, and he insists that he didn't. But then there seems to be evidence that his father actually did. Amid Elon Musk's, this is Business Today, from, May last year. Amid Elon Musk's constant denial, his father details a 4-day visit to an emerald mine with his billionaire son. Elon Musk recently tweeted saying that if this emerald mine was real, that his father would not require financial support from him. But his father has given a detailed account of a 4-day trip with his billionaire son to the much-disputed emerald mine in South Africa. This comes after Elon Musk has repeatedly shut down rumours, clarifying that there is no evidence that such a place exists. In an interview, Errol Musk, his dad, revealed that Elon Musk went on a 4-day visit to his emerald mine in South Africa when he was just a teenager. According to him, they went to the mine to pick up a cargo of emeralds and fly them back to their native South Africa, and etc. and so on. No, but whether that's true or not, I mean, it does sort of fit in with Donald Trump, who claimed that his business empire was all of his own doing, and he only got a small loan from his father, which And he said it was $1 million, a small loan, which sounded like a pretty big loan to me. But it was, I believe, in fact, $420 million.
I make $400 million a year, so what difference does it make?
And if he'd just taken that $420 million and he put it in an interest-bearing savings account, he'd be worth more now than he is after a lifetime of wheeling and dealing, leaving a trail of misery behind him. But where would be the excitement in that? Are these phones working again? Are they bust again? Not again. Jim says, people were sold a lie based on ideology. Now they're facing the reality. The oven just needed repairing, not replacing with a completely broken one. Yeah, well, it's a torturous analogy about the European Union. Yeah, we just needed repairing. We didn't need to replace the oven with a completely broken one. That's true. Good point. Daryl says, can I just point out that if you describe a male porn star's performance as wooden, he'll probably take it as a compliment. Sam says, I just don't get it. There are 350 million Americans thick. Why can't they see that Trump is a narcissistic maniac? Well, 350 million Americans don't believe that Trump is a raving genius. It's a much, much smaller number than that. I mean, there's only about, I'm going to have to guess now, 360 million people in America. So most certainly it's more than 10 million people that think that Trump is just a lying grifter. Must do. Tristan says, did you ever go to a pub in Hackney called the Robin Hood? My parents used to run it back in the 1980s. Elton John, played an impromptu gig there in 1987. No. But I've been to King's Cross Station, St Pancras, and Elton John, played an impromptu gig there just the other day. A little while ago. We left a piano behind. Some people leave rubbish behind them. Elton John leaves pianos wherever he goes. And John says, you're an avid reader of The Fail, as in the Mail. Please explain, what work will Kate carry on doing from her bed? Yeah, you know, I usually avoid all those raw stories because I'm just not interested in whatever spin it is they care to put on nothing at all that they do for a living. But I did hear that Kate will continue her duties while in her hospital bed. Yeah, right. Okay, sure. I believe you. And Jan says, that certain moon-faced gentleman that pandered to the right to stay in power did fall on his sword by resigning. Now he's back as Foreign Secretary. Is he apologising to everyone he visits? I hope so, says Jan. Well, a Foreign Secretary, wherever he goes in the world, would have a considerable amount to apologise for to pretty much every country he visited for our previous behaviour. Or, as it's known in right-wing circles, rewriting history. Brussels. Emma.
Yeah, hi, Nick. Yeah, well, I was saying to Tuesday, I was sort of joking, like, you know, last week when all your phones went down.
Yes. I thought it had happened again, but somehow you managed to get through.
Well, I think that's the thing. I think no one knows what to say now because it looks... I mean...
You're all out of thoughts.
Trump's going to probably go back into the White House, very likely, or at least the fact that is a possibility is even scary. And then, I mean, look at the Netherlands, you know, you've got this scary guy who is, I think, a Holocaust denier, or at least a Holocaust skeptic, is likely, well, he will be the new leader in the Netherlands. And actually, that's an interesting one because I have a friend of mine from the Netherlands who's actually a black woman. She was adopted as a young child by couple of white parents, her and her sister. And she's black, and she actually voted for him. And I was like, wow. And she's like, oh, yeah, he's not racist anymore.
Yeah.
I said, but no, but he is. It's no. And it's like even a very, very... When it's a situation where a very, very black person in Netherlands votes for a very, very anti-racist person, that's when you know there's a problem in our world.
Well, the people that voted for the Conservative Party the last time around were mostly poor. The well-off people did not vote Conservative. If the more people than not voted Conservative who were in the bottom percentiles of earnings in this country, the C2DEs, they're the people that keep the Tories in power, which is bizarre because you think that the people who vote Conservative would be well off, but they don't vote Conservative.
Well, exactly, because I'm one of these annoying people who's, very well off Liberal who voted, Labour and will do again this year. And it is just bizarre, and it's similar in the US and all over. And you just think, wow, this year's going to be very interesting because obviously there's lots of elections going on, and where are we going to land? I mean, there are bright spots. I mean, look, Poland is a bright spot.
This is a bright spot. I mean, we're not going to the right in this country. The opposite is true.
Hopefully that's the case. But it's just generally the fact that we can have such, crazy rhetoric around. I mean, even the story this week about, we're going to prioritise white people for homes. Well, that's not even a thing. The fact that we know what's gone on. We've got these Australian sort of public policy people who have been purporting for the Tory party,
supposed election winners,
supposedly, and they are, chain smoking bigots who are, in theory, going to help. Hopefully, the Tories get back in.
Yes, but that assumes that they believe what they're saying, and I don't believe that political operatives believe what they're saying. They are people for hire who have a way of making people think that up is down, which is essentially what their job is. Don't believe the evidence of your eyes and your ears, your life experience. Believe me when I tell you that everything is fine.
Well, and I think the thing that's so patronising is this thing that working class people, they're all racist. I mean, my partner, he's working class guy, and I'm sort of probably more middle class. We all sort of a bit of a joke about where we all stand. But at the end of the day, he's from Manchester. He's from from Stockport and that area, and it is very working class area. But doesn't mean people are educated, doesn't mean they don't read, doesn't mean they're stupid. And it's this sort of concept or this perception that they're all stupid and go,
Well, if you keep voting for a party that is not acting in your interests and you do it over and over and over again, what would you call that behaviour, Emma?
Yeah, pretty stupid.
All right, thanks for that. 0345 6060 973. Yeah, well, you might think that. I could not possibly comment. There was a story about, and it kept coming up. A big splash on the front page of the Daily Telegraph the other day. Britain will lose the next World War. It's too woke to fight. So we're being prepped for the next World War. I think we're being prepped just to throw more money at the defence contractors because, they're getting jealous about all the money that we're throwing at the oil and gas giants and all the money that we've thrown at the water companies. And they're thinking, well, hang on a minute, what about us? So I think we're being pushed into spending vast amounts of money on military hardware at probably 10 times the price that it could be bought for. If you want to waste £1 million, ask the military to change a light bulb. because they will no doubt put in that bill. But, this idea that we are about to fight World War III, I mean, it's the kind of thing that's happened my entire life. There's always been this fear, which has been sort of whipped up by people, who are either trying to sell you something, including themselves. But World War III just around the corner, because Vladimir Putin is going to launch an attack on this country. It seems unlikely to me, but if that does happen, we're going to lose because of wokeness. So said a person who's writing for The Telegraph this week. God, stuff that you read. Britain will lose the next World War. It's too woke to fight, said a person called Isabel Oakeshott, whose name you are probably familiar with because she's on a blooming television all the time. Why? I've no idea, but she is.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850.
I just want to tell you all how happy I am to be back in the studio making a picture again.
It's a radio show, dear. Jason says, did you see Bodger telling the world that he would be ready to volunteer for armed service? This is the same guy that hid from an interviewer in a fridge, says Jason. Well, that is true, ain't it, Bodge?
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Armed service. Do uniforms come in your size?
I can't comment on that.
Can't comment on that.
Blah, blah, blah.
Britain will lose the next World War. It's too woke to fight, says Isabel Oakeshott, and it's screamed on the front page of the Daily Telegraph. Those who might be called upon to lay down their lives might wonder who or what they would be fighting for. And the rest of it was behind a paywall. And if you think I'm going to pay to read what Isabel Oakeshott thinks, you've got another thing coming. But I've read that same thought parroted before. As though an email has gone out for the usual suspects to ramp up the war on woke, which is, in fact, a war on the young, who don't tend to vote Conservative. That's what that's all about, I believe. It's in order to appeal to old people who have always thought that the young are an absolute shower, regardless of what era it is we're talking about. And this era is no different. So how to get the oldsters, who are the only demographic still likely to vote Conservative, how to get them on side? Pick a fight with the young. Because the fight is one that they have already joined, the old people. Ooh, with their blooming haircuts and their, all of that. And their rock and roll music.
Rock and roll!
Not even music, really, is it? It's just a noise. Those people. That's what the war on woke's about, I believe. It's about trying to get old people on side by talking to them about something that they hate already. Young people whose knees work and who might be able to appear in a Welsh adult movie.
Disgusting.
Without medical enhancement. That's why old people are furious about the young. Is because young people might actually get to have sensual relations with each other.
Dreadful.
But I've heard that thought parroted before. The young are too woke to fight. It's like an email has gone out for the usual suspects to ramp up the war on woke. The real reason that we won't have troops to fight another war is not that the young are woke. It's that the young are sick. As in, their health is bad. And the reason for that is the Conservative Party. Or whoever it is that's been running this country for the past 14 years. There's a woman called Professor Dame Sally Davis. She's a former Chief Medical Officer for England. She says the UK is the sick man of Europe again. On almost every health indicator, life expectancy, healthy life expectancy, obesity rates and healthcare capacity, we lag behind our peers. Office for National Statistics data reveals that the number of people who cannot work, primarily because of long-term illness, has reached yet another record at nearly 2.6 million. This backs up recent research by the IPPR, the Commission on Health and Prosperity. By tracking people over time, it demonstrated how the onset of sickness had substantial consequences in the UK on economic participation, income, job satisfaction and productivity, and fighting the next war. Because we're too sick to go to work, never mind about go to the trenches. Professor Dame Sally Davis, former Chief Medical Officer for England, says this is not the first time the UK has lagged behind on health outcomes and faced the associated economic harm. During the 19th century, Industrial Revolution and the 20th century post-war period, Britain faced health crises like today's, also undermined labour supply, economic participation and growth. But in both cases, leaders implemented bold new public health strategies. In the 1800s, we took unprecedented public health action: cleaner drinking water, improved sewage disposal, new workplace protections, all of which we rode back on just recently, coincidentally. Now we've got, I wouldn't call it improved sewage disposal, just pouring it into rivers and into seas off our coasts. And as for workplace protections, well, the regime want rid of those. In the 1940s, says Dame Sally, we created the NHS. Each, at the time, was justified on both health and economic grounds, she says. Today, this is where we're failing. As a nation, we've yet to grasp the changing nature of our health needs in the 21st century and to design policy interventions and public services to suit. And you know what? I suspect that Dame Sally is being kind here because the reason that these people are sick is austerity. It's the hollowing out of the health service. It's making treatment less available for the purpose of forcing people into private health care. It's about defunding hang on. I had to cough there. It's about defunding the care sector. It's about impoverishing people for no good reason other than the Conservatives don't see helping others as a benefit to themselves, rather ignoring the fact that others run the country. Others do the nursing, the bin collection, street cleaning. We can't all be millionaires waiting for somebody else to do our work for us. And people have periods of bad luck. And this regime blames those people for their own misfortune rather than reaches out to help them. I mean, that's the reason we're a sick country. And that's the reason why we couldn't rustle up an army if we needed to. It's 14 years of punishing those who didn't get lucky enough to be rich. I mean, will the healthy offspring of the rich come to the nation's rescue and sign up for service?
No.
Of course not. You bet your life they won't. Ironically, the very people we need to join the military to protect the country are the same ones that are too ill to do so because of the actions of this country. Because it's not the rich that populate the military, is it? It's the not rich. And the not rich are sick because of 14 years of austerity. Professor Dame Sally Davis, former Chief Medical Officer for England, said one new reality is particularly challenging, the fact that we are living longer but in worse health. Gains in quantity of life have not been matched by increases in quality of life, meaning more people, including many more working-age people, are living with the economic consequences and reduced well-being of long-term, multiple and complicated health needs. That doesn't sound like a recipe for a good fighting force, does it? A population of long-term, multiple and complicated health needs. And this is likely to get worse. The Health Foundation estimates that the number of people with a major illness, 37%, will grow 9 times faster than the working age population between now and 2040. This level of sickness would force many more out of work, with the poorest, of course, being hit the worst. And that means a weaker labour market, less tax revenue, higher welfare and NHS spending, and the perpetuation of the UK's low growth, low productivity status quo. Vote Conservative. She says this fate can be avoided. Today, about 4 in 10 cancers, 8 in 10 premature heart attacks and strokes, and substantial proportions of depression and anxiety could be prevented. Other illnesses could be treated more effectively or better managed. So why aren't they? Why are we not taking a more comprehensive approach to crafting all policies, including health, that are genuinely fit for the 21st century? Dame Sally Davis, former Chief Medical Officer for England, answers the question in the following way. The crux is this: we simply do not value health sufficiently. Politicians and policymakers have not understood that investing in health is investing in the economy, and instead too often see illness as a drain. This incentivises a focus on limiting expenditure on health today rather than investment in long-term health creation for tomorrow. We need a wholesale change in how government thinks about and acts to improve health. Yeah, I think we need a wholesale change, all right. Hands up who agrees that we need a wholesale change. A wholesale change of...
this government.
Exactly. So when you hear that we won't be able to win World War III all on our own like we won World War II because the young are too woke to fight, that's not it. It's not too woke, too ill. 0345 6060 973. Jason says, did I read this one just now? I think I did. Did you see Bodger telling the world that he'd be ready to volunteer for armed service? This is the same guy that hid from an interviewer in a fridge. Yeah. Armed service.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Yeah. No. Not even in our darkest hour. Thanks, Bodge. You get to sit this one out. Mark texts, can they not change Jurgen Klippity-Klopp's batteries if he's run out of energy? Well, the money that they make... I read an article about how much money Jose Mourinho had made out of being fired. It's staggering. It's more money than 100 ordinary people would earn in their lifetimes. So how much money you earn from being a success, God, I can't imagine it. Julie says, Nick, this exhaustive list to join the army surely rules out the whole of the country. You can't join if you've got a rash or pimples, says Julie. Yeah, well, I think if push comes to shove, those rules will be struck out. Don't you worry about a thing, Julie. Your name is on the list. You are getting in. Let's have... let me see now. Tooting. Hello, Jan.
Hi, good evening.
Yes,
Nick.
Jan.
It sounds so grim, doesn't it, what's going on in this country at the moment?
Yeah.
And the thing is, the bit about this week, there was a meeting, well, quite a lot of local government councils in Westminster, but you know, they're saying that, look, they're all on. I mean, it's been in the news for a while, but it's what's being done to help them. You know, these local councils that are on the verge of bankruptcy.
Yeah. Well, they've taken. They've done the equivalent of taking £10 off them and then giving them back 20 pence, and calling them up on the deal.
Yeah, I mean, I just find it incredible. I mean, I was reading this bit in the Eye where one of them is saying, well, the MPs have actually signed open letter to Rishi Sunak to demand extra funding for the councils.
Yes.
I mean, we're not hearing about what's going on there. You know, we hear about everything about the boats and Rwanda, but this is really on our doorstep, isn't it? I mean,
well, what those MPs have realised is that there's an election on the way, assuming it is not cancelled for our safety, and they're all going to be out on their ear unless they can show that they have actually done something for their constituents. So very, very late in the day, they've decided to make a noise about austerity, which has been going on for 14 years.
But I mean, it's crazy. I mean, look, one of these boroughs, the one in Eastbourne, is spending half of its budget on giving temporary housing to the homeless.
Half of its budget? I seriously doubt that.
No, it says it here. they're spending 49 pence in every pound of its budget. This is Eastbourne Council on temporary housing for the homeless.
Well, how many homeless have they got in Eastbourne?
Well, I mean,
One who's been treated really, really well.
But so many councils are on the verge. I mean, it's.
I know it's the plan, Jan.
But I know, like for instance, Croydon Council, not a while ago, was bankrupt, but they somehow, I don't know, got back on its feet, or I don't know how it happened. They try to say it's bad management, but it isn't it? It's not. It's
what's happened is that they defunded councils, which is their trick, and they do it over and over and over again. They defund an institution or organisation and then blame that institution or organisation for not being able to cope. It's the trick they pull again and again and again.
But there's this terrible thing about what will be the end of local government if the government doesn't take action to support them.
So what councils have been forced to do is things that they aren't. That they don't have any experience of. They've become like property developers, or they've bought shares, and just anything to try to bump up the amount of money that they used to be able to just about get by on before the government defunded them in order to blame them for their own for their perceived inadequacy.
Oh, but there is an upside to one local council that is close to bankruptcy. I thought I'll just mention this because I wonder what you think of it. Because I mean, I've never been to many of the Shropshire. I've never been to Shropshire, but for instance, they're close to bankruptcy, and they're trying to avoid doing that. They have to. Never mind. But they've been listed as a perfect holiday. Look, these travel agencies. What is it? The main travel agents in England.
Yeah.
Travel Trade Abbot, that's what it's called, I think.
Yes.
They've listed Shropshire as a rural gem.
Well, it sounds
one of
a
the perfect holiday
delight.
places.
Yes.
It's the World Top 10.
I bet it is.
And they say, I didn't know that. They say that's where the Industrial Revolution started. So they're trying to sell it. It's like very, very beautiful landscapes and villages.
Right, now they've stopped all that industrialising, yeah.
But I mean, to say it's one of the best travel destinations for 2024.
Right, who said that?
This is here. It's the Travel Trade Organisation, Abbot.
Right. In the whole world, it's one of the best places to go in the world. They usually come out with that with something like that, don't they? In order to gain publicity, I bet. That Lonely Planets guide. They'll come out with the top 10 beaches in the world, and just for giggles, they'll say Hull has one of them. And people will drop their toast butter side down in shock, and then people will talk about it for a little while, thereby furnishing them with publicity. Jan, I've got to go, but thanks for that. Well spotted. Keep your eyes open.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850.
Come on, we're running late.
We are running late. 0345 6060 973. Winchester. Simon.
Good evening.
Yes, sir.
couple of things. First of all this talk of, World War III and all that doesn't worry me really, because it's basically aimed towards Russia, and Russia hasn't moved their front line for 2 years, and if they're not capable of taking a small town, they're not going to take on NATO, are they, really?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Unless we're going to start lobbing nuclear weapons at each other, then it seems unlikely that Russia is going to have the money and wherewithal to expand their operations outside of Ukraine, which is
85% of their actual army is dead. And that doesn't even take into account all the thousands and thousands of tanks and all the equipment that's gone, and they haven't got the ability to replenish it, at least at the moment. So it makes me wonder where this narrative is coming from.
Yeah, I suspect, if you want to, walk down a conspiracy lane with me for a moment, I suspect that much of it is about funneling money to the defence industry, which is, I'm sure, major donors to a certain political party.
I'm wondering if... slightly differently, I'm wondering if the actual people in the army, the top brass, are so fed up with not getting the equipment that they need that they're actually weaponising the people to make noises to get the funding. Because let's face it, I ain't going to go to war, but if it means that in order to not go to war, you're going to buy me or buy the country a new cannon, then that's what you're going to do. So I'm just wondering if there's a little bit of conspiracy there. Can I just say as well, if we are going to war, we'll send the Brexiters first. It makes sense, doesn't it? Because
I think the very first person there should be Marc Francois, because he was in the army and wasn't trained to lose. So he sounds like just the very chap.
Let's send that man. And the other thing is, I've got two things quickly. Oakshott is the girlfriend of Mr. Reform UK Richard Tongue Tice. Have you seen what that thing he does with his tongue?
No.
Have a look. Next time he's speaking,
most certainly will do nothing of the sort.
It looks like he's trying to lick a stamp that's flown away from him.
I'm still trying to get over that whole Welsh adult picture issue.
Disgusting.
I don't need to look at that. Thanks.
The other thing is, don't worry about Trump, because from what I'm seeing, watching a lot of American feeds, he's not as popular as people think he is.
The thing with Donald Trump is that he is ratings gold much to a wider extent than his supporters, because he's one of those people that you just can't take your eyes off. There's something about him. He's absolutely magnetic. There's no doubt about that. I mean, I despise him like poison, but he's difficult to take your eyes off. And I've got an entire page here of his various sayings and musings, which I couldn't do for any other politician in the world. But pretty much everything he says is gold.
Is he crazy, or is that just the way he acts?
I mean, I could just play any of these completely at random.
Believe me, believe me, believe me, believe me, believe me, believe me, believe me. Okay.
I mean, just any of them.
Bing bong.
You see, that's funny.
I can't wait to see him taken down. I mean, he just thinks he's invincible, and I'm loving it. The last thing I'm going to say is I've got all my old action men up in the loft when I was a kid.
Oh yeah.
I'll send them up to number 10, and then Rishi can have his choice of army uniform then, can't he?
Right. Well, that's just an offensive thing to say there, Simon, but is actually true. Yeah. Okay. I'm sure he'll watch for it at his door. 0345 6060 973. Manchester. Andrew.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, good morning.
Yes.
I was going to talk about conscription.
You were going to, or you are going to?
Well, I'm going to. The army doesn't want them.
No.
I spent 4 years in West Germany when it was divided, and another 18 months in West Berlin, which was very interesting. if people listening to this and have been there recently, the last 10, 20 years, think it was a party city, you should have seen what it was like in the 70s, because it was common knowledge that the Russians, if they came over from East Berlin, would have got rid of us within 12 minutes. So they partied like mad. And the army doesn't... seriously,
I'm not sure that's why people were partying, but anyway, go on.
Well, they wanted to live, yeah, and they realised the constraints on their existence if it all kicked off. I don't think it's going to kick off. I think the military establishment, both in, political and industrial in this country, is looking for orders. But I am concerned about all the stuff that we've sent, all the gear we've sent and kit we've sent to Ukraine. I don't see any confirmation that it's been replaced. And I do think that Putin will sit back, and I don't think it's widely understood in this country that 40% of this year and next year and onwards GDP of Russia will be spent on armaments.
Well, but you say that like it's a fact. I mean, we don't really know that. What is Russian GDP these days anyway? All of these are interesting ideas you just posited for us, Andrew, but unfortunately we've completely run out of time to think about them. But better luck next time. Thanks for that. 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 Next time.